Hello and welcome to this week's BizSmart Lunch and Learn webinar. Our weekly webinars are aimed to provide advice and share knowledge amongst business owners on key business topics and specialist areas. This is part of our service to our Smart Room members. If you're not already a member or a BizSmart client and would like to access our archive of webinars, then please visit our website biz-smart.co.uk and go to our Smart Room page. Our host joining me today is BizSmart Select member Matthew Parsons from SurfTech IT. But before we start our webinar, can I ask you all to use the question mark function on your screen to post any questions that you may have, and Matthew will answer them all at the end of the session. Thank you, Matthew. Over to you.
Thanks, Caroline. Right, just to move swiftly on. Okay. So today I was going to talk about cloud services, but before we get into the nitty-gritty, I thought I should just introduce myself. Obviously, those who haven't seen a webinar by myself before. My name is Matthew Parsons. I'm the director at SurfTech IT Limited. I've been working in the IT industry for about 14 years now, with a range of Microsoft and Apple certifications, just to really prove to you really that the information I'm giving you is valid. But to quickly move on, so cloud services, do I need a server? Now this is a common question asked by many customers, obviously new and old customers, is should we move into the cloud? And I suppose it's one of those buzzwords recently of cloud technologies. And we'll just go initially, obviously, the options available in regards to cloud, and obviously how that compares to on-premise servers. And effectively, the biggest obviously difference is obviously one's going to be internet-based, one's obviously going to be local, not internet-dependent. Anything can be hosted in the cloud, whether that be storage, whether that be servers, your infrastructure as far as email, your Active Directory, your user, password management, that sort of thing can obviously be hosted in the cloud, and obviously on-premise, that we're probably all aware, obviously those same facilities are available. And in regards to other alternatives really, that's when we could talk about hybrid scenarios where we've got a mix and match. So we prefer to keep things in-house, and say in regards to storage, we know our data's kept, but we most likely have email hosted in the cloud. So if you're using Office 365, for example, that in theory is a cloud service. And obviously your storage, obviously being local, so using a hybrid environment for those. So just to quickly move on. So what is the cloud? The cloud is a collection of servers hosted in a data center, able to offer a wide variety of services, usually fully managed and maintained. So those who aren't aware, effectively they are all servers. They're hosted in a huge data center somewhere, usually Ireland, London. There's one in Wolverhampton, there's one in Redditch, just to give you some ideas. And generally, depending on the data center hoster you're going with, it'll be geolocated. So again, the data will be copied between multiple sites to ensure your data security and uptime and that sort of thing as well. Let's move on again. So what's available for cloud services? So obviously storage. And so you're all using probably some sort of Dropbox if you're a relatively, let's say, small to medium-sized business. So you're familiar with Dropbox or Box or OneDrive for Business. Again, easily flexible storage, can be expanded on a touch of a button. Obviously, you can change the subscription. Infrastructure as a service, again, that comes down to your usernames, passwords, security policies, that sort of thing. That's obviously in the cloud as well. Software as a service, so this is sort of changed as things have moved on, but also you've got like Dynamics Online, for example. That's a CRM system that's sort of hosted in the cloud, giving you, let's say, additional facilities that you may want from a cloud provider that's going to be maintained, going to be scalable, and the rest of it really. How that compares to obviously on-premise services, obviously storage, generally you've paid for a box in the corner that's going to obviously offer you infrastructure on your storage. It's generally going to be inflexible, it's going to be costly to expand. Obviously you need an engineer on site, you've got to buy the hard drives yourself. I suppose the difference to this is obviously compared to cloud and on-premise is the fact that you obviously own that hardware, you've got an asset within your business. Effectively, obviously with cloud services, yes, it is flexible. Yes, in theory, these services are all managed and maintained by somebody else, but you're paying a monthly subscription cost for that. So for small businesses, yeah, it's great because you've got this monthly small outgoing cost. You manage your cash flow, fantastic. For slightly larger businesses, it may be more relevant to have an on-premise server whereby you've got that additional cash really to spend on a server, so you've actually got an asset within your business, and obviously for security reasons. And obviously hybrid we've obviously already mentioned on the last slide. So examples, obviously we've touched on OneDrive, Dropbox and Box. We've touched on obviously email, being hosted in the cloud, whether that be through obviously Google Mails, obviously another one, usernames, passwords, policy control. Obviously the biggest one, which I've actually not mentioned yet, is obviously cloud services is accessible from anywhere, obviously being held in the cloud in a data center somewhere. It's obviously accessible remotely from anywhere with an internet connection, so whether or not you be on holiday in Spain, you really have that urge to go out there and do some work, then by all means you can log onto your emails, you can log onto your CRM system, you can see what the guys are up to, log onto some documents if you really had to. Again, that's probably the biggest advantage to having cloud, is that you're not going to be limited to geographical locations. Not that in theory if you've got an on-premise system and you've got a decent internet connection, that'll be a limiting factor, but it's just one of those things to think about effectively. And the biggest thing now, so differences to cloud or not to cloud is the question, and as I said before, really, it's the question that's on anybody's tongues in regards to how they run their business. It is a subscription-based service. You will be paying a monthly cost for it. Within that monthly cost, you will have obviously service level agreements. You don't own anything. You do have an uptime guarantee depending on your cloud provider. There are savings to be had obviously in regards to electric, storage space, if you're running air conditioning in a particular room purely just for servers. So there are some savings to be had in regards to that. Security, generally most cloud providers offer some reassurance in regards to security. They've got firewalls in place to protect your data. They've got ISO requirements, 9001, 27001 in regards to information security, and it's flexible. If you went from 10 users to 20 users overnight, then obviously the cloud subscription generally will increase, and also you'll be able to move with that as your business grows. So there are definitely advantages to having cloud-based solutions, but it's not for everyone, and I suppose that the difference in my eyes is dependent on your internet connection. If you've got a slow internet connection, it's probably not going to be the right solution for you. If you've not got a service level agreement on your internet connection, it's probably not going to be a service for you, because again, if you've got an office full of 20 people, you're using a mixture of online services, maybe say Microsoft Dynamics Online with Microsoft Office 365, they all link together, and maybe even Box, which again integrates into those two as well. And as your internet goes down, you've got 20 users, then you suddenly can't do any work purely because your internet connection has gone down. Now there's two ways which you can think about that. Ultimately you could send them home, get them to work from home, because again 99.9% of the people have probably got an internet connection at home that they can work from. Or ultimately they're sat in the office doing little to no work until you get that service back up and running, which could take days depending on the fault and obviously what the provider tends to offer you. So it's just those things to be aware of really. Okay, and just to obviously compare that to an on-premise. Obviously on-premise is a one-off cost. You own the hardware, it's physically in your building, you can assure its security. Obviously there are additional support costs involved, obviously in regards to a managed service agreement with an IT provider to make sure that server's up and running. It's not to forget really that there will be support costs into the subscription costs, so it's not as if it's an additional cost, it's just that's generally seen as an additional expense because it's separate to your hardware. Internet connection dependent, that it doesn't actually require an internet connection, obviously for an on-premise site. If the internet goes down, generally everything will tick along, apart from maybe emails won't be affected. Electrical costs, obviously that increases, and obviously making sure that the actual physical server is secure. And to conclude on these points really, no one solution is perfect for anyone. I think a hybrid solution is definitely an option. I think probably most of the businesses I've tended to work with have hybrid setups, so they've got a server on site. This synchronises their usernames and passwords to their Office 365, and they've got their emails hosted in the cloud, purely because it is flexibility, and we can reduce those costs, increase those costs as and when users come on board. It does depend very much on your needs. I say personally, which we don't use, I say we've got one in-house server, but again that mainly is controlling the policies on our computers to make sure that the computers don't, effectively users can't do what they shouldn't be doing. But again, we can move out into the cloud. Microsoft actually have their own online infrastructure called Intune, which offers a sort of domain like facility, so that your computers join the domain, you get policies from the main server, so when not to be a case if they can't access certain applications, they can't do Windows updates at certain times of the day, or we enforce updates. That's what I mean when it comes to more infrastructure side of things as well. Internet connectivity, ultimately I think we've touched on this quite a few times today. It is a very important factor when looking at cloud solutions. Internet connectivity is not as great as we'd hope it would be. In some areas, I know Bromsgrove Technology Park's only recently just got BT Infinity in regards to fibre access, and for a technology part, obviously that's quite a key factor for them. And migration costs. Ultimately, pushing your data onto a cloud system can be done in two ways, really. So you're either looking at, so we initially take a copy, take that copy to the data center, plumb it in over a USB stick or a USB hard drive, get that data across, and ultimately then we have a start data where we do initial, then mass push of obviously the most recently changed data, and then off you go. Other ways of migrating is purely uploading it, but obviously again, depending on the amount of data you have to upload, it really depends on how much, sorry, it depends on how much data you've got to actually, time it takes to actually upload. Obviously security. Obviously data location, there's been a big thing about hosting your information in the States, for example. Their data protection policies are completely different to our own. I believe that actually law enforcement have complete transparency in regards to your data if it's held in a data center in there, that's over in the States. And obviously ours are far more, I said, locked down to protect our businesses and for our own interests, really. Cloud is scalable. Monthly costs, you know exactly what you're paying from month to month. It seems to be a trend at the moment that everybody seems to be jumping on, is to have this monthly cost. They do it with office packages now, so you pay £7.80 per month to have your email hosted and to have your office package included in that monthly cost. Obviously, ability being you obviously get the latest updates with it. I've always compared it to, as in regards to cost with cloud and on-premise, is you're renting a service that in theory you never own. It's like renting a house. It's money that's going towards a service that you never physically get anything back from. When you're actually buying something and you actually have the physical service, like you get an asset that belongs to the business and it's not going anywhere, and it's a one-off cost, and it's there, it's done, it's in. So that, again, it depends how your business functions. It depends on how much control you like. But cloud services are here to stay, and they will be coming out with more and more better solutions as things move on, really. And I think that's it for today's slide. So thank you for listening, and any questions?
Lovely, thank you very much, Matthew. We've got your first question is from David, and he asks, how quickly can I have my resources online?
So yeah, moving resources online. So it always depends on what resources you do want online. We recently did a migration of about 210 gigabytes worth of data to Office 365. We use a couple of different tools to migrate that data. So we initially have a 2-week gap, essentially. We spend 2 weeks pushing all that data to the cloud. Once we have got the initial data there, we then do one last push. We obviously arrange a cutover date. We cease on that date, and then we go live generally on like a Monday, so it gives that weekend to make sure everything's working as it should be really. In regards to file and transfer data, it becomes a little bit difficult depending obviously on the solution. I'd say it is relatively straightforward. It's just a case of a time scale, really. Most things we leave to synchronise overnight. And if needs be, if we're hosting things with Amazon, for example, we can actually send data to them and I'll copy that data over. So large amounts of volume aren't a problem in regards to data, and small data is easy peasy. So I hope that's answered your question.
Okay, thank you. Next question from Jason. I have a poor internet connection. Can I still use cloud services?
Yes and no. Honestly, I suppose if you're using documents, images of the large files on a cloud storage facility, I'd probably say it's not going to be the great user experience for yourself or your employees. I would probably say, I think email is very much internet dependent anyway. So obviously without an internet connection, you don't actually receive any emails. So moving that to the cloud isn't such a bad thing anyway, because again, you need internet to be able to get those emails and to send emails. And that's why you find that most people are always under this hybrid solution of emails online and then do your storage locally. So your internet connection will play a big part in that. I'd say if your internet connection's inconsistent, slow majority of the time, I wouldn't be pushing for cloud services just yet. I would certainly wait until hopefully you have a fast internet connection rollout near you, and then reassess it as and when the time comes, really.
Okay,
that's that one.
Thank you. You've got another question, one from Kevin. He says, "Hi Matt, is there a tipping point at which you typically would recommend one option or the other, e.g. number of employees, turnover?"
No, I think you look at, I think Box is obviously a storage solution that we use ourselves, but it's also used by companies such as Intel and Coca-Cola, for example, and obviously they're large-scale businesses, obviously they're multinationals, and they use cloud services themselves. So I wouldn't say initially number of employees or turnover is one thing to look at. It's really based on what your needs are. So cloud service with regards to sharing documents and things offers some great flexibility. I can open my laptop anywhere I want. I can get to every file as if I was sat in my office. All that sort of thing. I can collaborate with people easily. And I suppose the big push now with cloud services to allow that collaboration to be easier across multiple sites. So that if I started an office, say in North Scotland, that I could actually just plonk someone up there and he has the same access to all the data that I've got based in our office without being dependent on me, or if our site got burgled, that sort of thing. It does give great flexibility, and I wouldn't say there's any particular tipping point for that at all. It's very much around needs, data, but the biggest one really is security. Most companies obviously are happy for their data to be in the cloud, because they understand it's obviously protected by our own data security laws here. Anyway, we've had certain customers whereby they've got particular regulations and audits that take place in regards to their own ISO standards, whereby they need to have that data encrypted, prove its encryption, and keep it locally for data security reasons. So it's still a mixture of both, and I still think hybrid solutions are probably still the most common in most businesses at this present moment in time.
Okay, thank you. Your next question is from David, and he asks, the security element and safety of cloud-based services make me nervous. How secure can it be?
So yeah, to touch on security again, so for example, we host our own obviously backup solution actually in a local data center, and ultimately we're obviously ISO 27001 ourselves, so is the data center we hold it in. They've got their various restrictions in regards to who has access to that data, as who has access to their data center, to actually get physically hold of that box. Now, ultimately, we put our own firewalls in place to make sure that our data is secure, with live filters that update all the time. There's nothing in theory that gets out to the outside world. We actually create secure VPN links between the customer's site and our own data center to make sure that data that is uploaded to obviously our backup server is all encrypted, and then their volume itself is encrypted. So we put multiple layers of encryption in place to ensure that that data is secured. Now, I suppose not to blanket all data centers, but everybody's going to have their own requirements, and each data center is going to have their own data policy. So the only thing to really think in regards to security is ultimately how comfortable are you with that data being in the cloud, how comfortable are your customers being in the cloud, and also what the data policy is of that data center in particular in regards to making sure your data is kept secure at every step, really. So I hope that's helped.
Thank you. And your final question from Kevin, is it worth having a backup server not connected to the internet in case of any hacking / viruses? Yeah,
so ultimately, a backup server not connected to the internet, I suppose, yes, you could. I suppose if it goes to cloud service, it needs to be connected to the internet one way or another. You could have it duplicating. So say, for example, you've got Box or Dropbox, and you want that duplicating to your own server locally. You can do that by all means. However, I suppose the biggest issue being is it needs internet connectivity to be able to get that data and keep it synced. Now, there have obviously been a variety of viruses going around called CryptoLocker and such, which encrypt your data. So they get onto one PC and then encrypt all the data on your basic local PC first, and then they'll also do it on the obviously on your server and map drives and things at the same time. Most storage-based, cloud-based facilities have their own versioning control, for example, so you can pull everything back. So if it has changed based on the fact that it's been encrypted, you can actually pull it back from the various versions, so it's not too much of an issue. I suppose that answers your question really. It is quite difficult to keep it off the internet but still keep it connected to the network, and to keep that data so effectively up to date. But you could always do a backup via the means to a USB hard drive, keep that in a safe somewhere, and do it on a weekly basis. My concern is you're very much down to human error and making sure it gets done. That being the biggest point there, I think. I hope that answers your question, Kevin.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you again, Matthew, for hosting today's webinar. I will be sending out a copy of the presentation and Matthew's contact details out to you all very shortly. But before we close, just a quick reminder that this webinar is part of our service to our Smart Room members. If you're not already a member or a BizSmart client and would like to access our archive of webinars, then please visit our website biz-smart.co.uk and go to the Smart Room page. We hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you for listening, and we hope you can join us next time.